Okay, my turn.
I am the Hulk. I am Abomination.
Oh, I'm the Hulk. I'm so sad. I don't know how to defend myself. My God.
Fortnite Season X, the definition of divisive, and what is labeled as being one of the worst seasons of all time and one of the best. However, I am here today to solve this debate. And quick spoiler, if anything, I believe that this is genuinely one of the greatest seasons of Fortnite ever. Let me explain.
Guys, it's time to play!
After the events of Season 9, when the 0 Point was finally exposed and the evil that was the Polar Peak monster had been killed off, the brand new Season X released on August 1st, 2019. But with the new season brought new, incredibly impactful changes, that being the 0 Point itself. You see, the 0 Point was slowly but surely warping reality on the island, and would change the Fortnite island forever. And with the 0 Point being exposed, it brought many new changes. First of which being the locations, like how the 0 Point brought back Dusty Depot, a fan favorite POI from the very beginning and one of the most memorable by far, beloved for its simple but nostalgic layout, and one of the most memorable due to it being found in the center of the map, and because of the three main structures inhabiting this POI. Along with Dusty Depot, thanks to the 0 Point, the Season 4 Meteor is back, being suspended over Salty Springs for a stunning view. And even though the 0 Point did all of this, that doesn't necessarily mean that the 0 Point itself stayed intact. In fact, the 0 Point has now exploded, making a giant low-gravity bubble field in the surrounding area. But this doesn't mean that the 0 Point is done making changes to the map, but we'll talk more about that later. Now, let's talk about the loophole changes and new mechanics, starting hot with possibly the most controversial thing in Fortnite gameplay history, the Brute Mech. The mech had brought some of the most overpowered gameplay to the game. Essentially, how it works is that there could be two operators in the Brute, someone operating the lower half and someone operating the upper half. The lower half's operator would control the movements like walking, jumping, and dodging, while the upper half's operator would control the top part of the mech's movement, its machine gun arm, and its missile arm. On release, this mech had such outcry from the community, it was actually insane. And even to this very day, it is still feared immensely among the community. But now that we know how the season started, let's get to how the season progressed through updates.
Will now perform my people's native dance.
On August 6th, we received our first update, of which brought us the new version of the automatic sniper rifle, which in my opinion was quite underrated. But that wasn't all we got from this update. Thanks to the 0 Point's destruction, it created a reality warping zone around Neo Tilted, turning it into Tilted Town, a western version of the beloved Tilted Towers, where you could not destroy any of the environment inside of that zone, nor build. But with this new POI, also brought weapons to look the part, such as the double barrel shotgun, hunting rifle, infantry rifle, and of course the 6-shooter. Then on August 14th, the Mega Mall got its grand reconstruction, or rather the 0 Point's grand reconstruction for it. Essentially, another reality warping zone appeared at the Mega Mall this time, and with it, changed the area to the Season 6 version of Retail Row. And this specific version of Retail Row was present during Fortnitemares, meaning that this POI is being overrun by cube monsters. Then on August 20th, a rift beacon exploded at the sports center, causing a crater to appear. And while this may not seem like a big change, at least this update brought the infamous junk rift item to the game. Then on August 27th, one of the most memorable updates of this season was added, that being the Borderlands update, a super cool but unexpected collab. However, this update didn't just bring the Psycho Bandit skin, it also brought with it the Pandora area, which could be found inside of another rift beacon area, where the style in that area would be cel shaded to resemble the Borderlands games, where once you enter the POI, over time, while present in the bubble, it will slowly regenerate your shield. And with this update brought the brand new item, the Shield Bubble, a item where once you throw it down, it creates a giant dome of protection where no bullets can pass through on either side. The item had infinite health, but it would eventually disappear. Once more, on September 3rd, a super memorable island returned, that being the Kevin the Cube floating island, which appeared relatively close to Fatal Fields. And with that addition, we also saw the brand new addition of the Zapper Trap. And on September 4th, we saw the suppressed assault rifle get unvaulted. And then on September 11th, the rift beacon near Paradise Palms activated, turning it into a combination of Paradise Palms and Moisty Mire, called Moisty Palms. A cool feature about the location is that if you crouch, you can actually turn into a prop while inside of the POI. But this wasn't the only strange Rift Beacon occurrence of this update, as on the same date, a Rift Beacon appeared bringing a warped version of Greasy Grove, where rather than a Durburger restaurant being located, there was a taco restaurant. And while present in the bubble surrounding this POI, every once in a while you'll be forced to emote and tacos will rain from the sky. And during this phase, you are not able to use any items or weapons or builds. This update brought the new food item called Spicy Tacos, and it unvaulted the tactical submachine gun. And then on September 21st, Tilted Town changed into Gotham City from the DC universe. While present in this POI, you can redeploy as much as you want, and with this update also brought the explosive batarangs and Batman's Bat Grapple. And once more on September 25th, we got another Rift Beacon, bringing us a new location known as Starry Suburbs, where stars will fall from the sky and can drop loot. This update also involved the Bouncer. And for our final main update, on October 2nd, the Flintlock pistol was unvaulted. And a few days later, on October 5th, a giant countdown display appeared at Dusty Depot, displaying a countdown that will reach 0 in 8 days. And once that countdown reached 0, the rocket from Dusty Depot launched into a rift in the sky, redirecting to the 0 point, where multiple rockets appeared out of each other, simultaneously hitting the 0 point. And then all at once, the frozen meteor became unfrozen and hit the 0 point, making the 0 point implode on itself and sucking everything into it, turning it into a black hole, and everyone thought that this was the end of Fortnite.
We got a #1 victory royale. Yeah, Fortnite, we bout to get down. 10 kills on the board right now. Just wiped out Tomato Town.
Now, before I give my thoughts on the season, I'm going to let my boy Clen give his thoughts on Season X, which is one of his favorite seasons of all time. Take it away, Clen.
Fortnite Chapter 1 Season X was one of the greatest Fortnite seasons of all time, if not the greatest season of all time, and I'm here to break it down in maybe 5-ish minutes because we have to respect Pojo's video over here. We're happy to be here. We're honored to be over here. But anyways, Chapter 1 Season X, man, I swear to you, it was one of the greatest Fortnite seasons of all time in terms of updates. And I know you're going to talk to me about the mechs, but people remember the mechs incorrectly. Everybody remembers them the first few days when they were absolutely busted. When they got nerfed to the ground, when they got nerfed over and over and over again, the season was completely playable. But honestly, I would argue that even with the mechs being as overpowered as they were, was some of the most fun that I've ever had playing Fortnite. I have felt nothing like being able to hide from a mech. I've never felt that kind of fear on the Fortnite island, and that's something that I really miss from the OG days. Do you guys remember running into the John Wick skin when you had to like be careful? You had to be like, oh my god, there was a John Wick skin. You have to be super careful. Those really scary feelings of having the battle royale, or those feelings when you were finally having your one-on-one with somebody, you were the final two in the circle, you've never had your first victory royale before. Those feelings were brought back into Season X when the mechs got put on the map. I loved the idea of hearing this giant machine stomping around. It was so scary. You had to hide behind a corner because there wasn't a ton you could do, especially at the beginning. After the nerf, of course, you could take out the mechs, but I loved having the mechs put that fear into your heart. Or I also love too finding out there's a mech, having to have your whole squad focus and have teamwork on firing at that mech because it's such a powerful force to deal with on the map. It changed the dynamic of the gameplay and the feeling of the game like none other, and that's just the beginning of it. I personally love the mechs, but we also had weekly updates, weekly unvaults, weekly POIs. You know those updates that everybody talks about Fortnite not having the same kind of updates in Chapter 1 anymore? Yeah, we had updates every single week with new POIs, new weapons, and POIs with a gimmick, by the way, and everybody hated on it back in the day, and that's why you don't get those updates anymore, by the way. That's why we got Chapter 2 Season 1, because everybody was freaking out about getting weekly updates. Could you imagine? Weekly updates used to be a thing back in Season X. Every single week, we had a brand new POI, we had a brand new Rift Zone, we had multiple POIs in the same spot changing throughout the course of a season. We had the beginning of Tilted, switching over to Tilted Town, switching over to Gotham. We had an amazing live event at the end of the season. I'm trying to keep this within 5 minutes. There's so much to talk about with Season X. You had something that I loved about those Rift Zones, by the way. Something that I absolutely loved about them was the fact that you were forced to change your style of gameplay no matter where you went. You had all of the area outside the Rift Zones on Season X, which was typical Fortnite gameplay, but then you went into Pandora, where you had to kill somebody quicker, they get their shields back, or you had the high volume, like high assault kind of just fighting and competitive that you would get when it comes to Gotham with the glider redeploy, everybody kind of flying around. You had Taco Time, which I understand why people wouldn't like that, but that was some of the most fun I've ever had playing Fortnite, man. The idea of just fighting somebody, being forced to dance, and just doing this until the song ended, and then you had to see who would just pull the trigger first. That was so much fun. You had things like Starry Suburbs, Tilted Town, no building, no breaking, the OG time where we had no building. It was phenomenal, especially with the no breaking, just trapping people in a room, having a mech stomping around. You couldn't build a box, you had to hide, but even then it was fun because the mech couldn't destroy the building that you were in. Again, I want to keep this under 5 minutes, but they also ended off Season X with saying goodbye to the actual OG map. A phenomenal live event, teased beautifully, some of the best storytelling. You want to talk about Donald Mustard's old storytelling, you want to talk about how great it was to have Donald Mustard's story within the game. This is where it really kicked off. We had to figure out what these tapes were, we had to figure out that we were in a loop, we had to figure out so much about the storyline, and it all concluded in this beautiful event, going back to the OG rocket launch with the Rift Beacons coming in. The rocket launch, the music there was so beautiful. You had the rocket exploding, saying goodbye to the OG map that we all know and love. To this day, I have never felt such an attachment to a season. It isn't my favorite season of all time, but I have never felt such nostalgia for a season in my entire life, and this is coming from an OG player.
Very well said, Clint. You brought up many points that I agree with, actually. And if you want to check out Clint's channel, it will be linked in the description. He makes a lot of amazing content and overall just some really good stuff over there. So please go over and drop him a sub. But anyways, quite frankly, I do agree with everything he had to say. I thought the mechs added an intriguing layer of combat that did at times feel overwhelming, but not in a bad way necessarily. I thought the loot pool for this season was incredibly unique. And the biggest standout of all to me was the Rift Beacon zones, and how each zone has sort of a different perk attached to it, adding for a deeper layer of combat when you're in these niche situations that were still quite intriguing, where you could use these capabilities in your environment to possibly get the upper hand on your opponent. Overall, this might possibly be my favorite season of Chapter 1, but looking at all the contents over the whole season, I'd rate it a solid 9 out of 10, quite possibly one of the best seasons of all time in my opinion. But what do you think about the season? Let me know down in the comments below, and with that being said, please check out Clint's content over on his channel. Once more, he makes spectacular content, some of the best I've seen in recent time. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a lovely night.